Well, good evening. Good evening and welcome. I'm Greg Ferris, President of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees, and I hereby call this Forney ISD Board of Trustees meeting to order. It's now 7 o'clock. I hereby certify a quorum is present and that the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required by law. Our monthly meetings are open to the public. Although these meetings are public, comments and questions will be confined by the audience to the time designated for citizens to address the board. Again, thank you for being here tonight. At this time, we're going to open with our invocation. I'd like to introduce to you Reverend Christopher Allen. He has been part of the Forney family for nearly 8 years. He's the pastor of First United Methodist Church in Forney. Chris is married to Melissa, and together they have 2 children, Josiah and Elsef. Okay, thank you. First United Methodist Church is very active in the community and the schools, and for 31 years, the Methodist Church has provided a pancake breakfast to show their support for all our Forney ISD employees. We thank you for doing that for so many years. They've also provided volunteers and nearly 100 backpacks to our Forney ISD Resource Fair in August. Each month, the church provides a free child immunization clinic to the community. Since 2011, the church has provided over 1 million immunizations to children. We're thankful for Forney United Methodist Church as a member of our Forney family. Would you all rise?
A wise man once said, "To know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase their learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance." Let us pray. God of grace, we thank you for all the teachers, for all of the employees of Forney Independent School District, for those who impart wisdom and instruction, that wisdom and instruction might lead to wise dealing, to righteousness, justice, equity, and that it might give knowledge and discretion to the youth who are being taught. Lord, we pray for the youth. We pray that as they grow in wisdom and knowledge, that they would grow in a manner of fair dealing and in love for their fellow men and women. We do ask your blessing tonight. We pray in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like Mr. Garcia, principal of Warren Middle School, to come forward and his student of the month, and also Mrs. Harstrom, principal of Lewis Elementary, and they'll be leading us in our pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Terry and School Board. Tonight I get the honor and privilege to introduce you to Michaela Peak. She's coming to us from a game which she helped lead them to victory tonight against Ennis, so we're very proud of her and the team tonight. Michaela's here tonight with her mom and dad, Jeremy and Mandy Peak. Michaela's in the 8th grade and is a product of Forney ISD and came to us from Ray Elementary. Michaela has to be one of the busiest students I know. She is pretty much in everything from soccer, volleyball, basketball, and track and cheer. So she is kind of in a little bit of everything. Outside of school, she continues to stay busy. She is on the soccer team, volleyball team as well, and on a cheer squad as well outside of school. Michaela is an AB average student and serves on our student council. When Michaela finally does get some free time, she loves to just hang out with friends and family. Michaela loves school. She loves math class. She loves everything about math. She enjoys it, and she says it just comes easy to her. So more power to her. Michaela would love to attend Texas A&M University, but she's also dabbling with the idea of continuing with cheerleading through college, and if she does that, then she'd like to attend Texas Tech. Michaela is a great student and always has a smile on her face. She takes great pride in all that she does and is a very hard worker, according to her teachers. She is sweet and kind to everyone that she meets and is a joy in class, her teachers say. We're very proud of Michaela and how she embodies the warrior way in all that she does at Warren Middle School. So, Michaela Peak.
Good evening. I would like to present to you Sidney Pollard. She is a fourth grade student at Lewis Elementary. Her parents and sibling are here tonight, Kathy Grimaldo and Marcus Pollard, sister Joycelyn Trejo. Sidney continually strives to become a better student every day. She puts forth her best effort on all class assignments. She goes above and beyond when helping her fellow classmates and teachers, often anticipating others' needs. She is a friend to everyone, often stepping in when she sees someone hurt or struggling. We love Sidney for her kind, compassionate heart. She helps with smaller children in the cafeteria while waiting for the bus to pick her up. Sidney also has a passion for animals, especially English bulldogs and pigs specifically. She also enjoys basketball and writing. Sidney Pollard has been chosen to represent Lewis Elementary as our Student of the Month because she exemplifies the spirit of a model leopard, and we couldn't be more proud of her.
Thank you very much, and thank you, families, for being able to join us tonight. We're moving on to item 4, which is acceptance of donations. Tonight, we'll start with the Forney High School Athletics, a donation of $13,000 from the Touchdown Booster Club, presented by Mr. Neil Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, members of the board. As you know, many of you know probably, we have hundreds of parents who are active across our district in parent organizations and booster clubs. We had a symposium here last night for fine arts and athletics boosters and literally completely filled up the boardroom. We're really proud of what our parents do. Certainly the Touchdown Club at Forney High School is one of our gold standards, no pun intended, for parent organizations. And we have 3 representatives from the Touchdown Club here with us tonight. We'd like to recognize them for a $13,000 donation. Of course, there are lots and lots of little donations that go on throughout the year. This was a particularly significant one. It's a big piece of equipment. It's a football sled that they use in practice every day. If you'd like to see this thing in action, feel free to stop by Forney High School any afternoon. I'd like to invite up Donnie and Janet Anderson with our quarterback club and with our touchdown club, and Jennifer Stevens with our touchdown club to be recognized.
Thank you very much. Board, you've heard the recommendation and the motion. Do I have a motion, please, to accept this? Thank you, Ms. Dobbs. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is that Regan? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you. We'll move on to item 4B, Criswell Elementary PTO. I'd like to make a recommendation or a presentation. Mrs. Rachel Bonner will be making the recommendation tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Terry and School Board. The Criswell PTO from 2018-19 would like to make a donation of $13,816.23 for music, art, and the PE department. They have also designated money going towards playground improvements, field trips, and also including the transportation cost of the field trip. I would like to ask the school board at this time to accept this donation.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion from the board? Mr. Andrews, do I have a second? Second. Mr. Johnson, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Bonner. Moving on to item 4C, our Marketing Communications Department. At this time, Ms. Kristen Zanderpool will make her presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to present a donation tonight from the Forney Education Foundation. We are grateful for their continued support of our school district. They do incredible things for our students and staff. We are excited tonight to bring before you the fact that they were wanted to present us with a donation to help us power STEAM Fest this year, which, as you know, is our community event that supports about 3,000 attendees. So at this time, I'd like to present a donation from the Forney Education Foundation in the amount of $5,000 to Forney ISD STEAM Fest for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion from the board? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Andrews, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much.
And I believe Kate's here for a picture.
Okay. Go forward, everybody. Thank you very much. And that, several acceptance of donations, those are fun when we get to take in gifts like that, which benefit our students. So thank you all for your donations and contributions to our students. Moving on to item 5, recognitions. First will be student recognitions, and at this time, Mr. Neil Weaver, Director of Athletics, will present some athletic recognitions tonight.
Thank you once again. If it please the board, we're actually going to go just a bit out of order on these 4 recognitions. In fact, we're going to go exactly backward. Beginning with, these are all softball recognitions, and we'll start with the young ladies who are recognized for being academic all-state. At times, well, not at times, every year our softball and baseball teams are very successful, and they end their season once school is out, basically, so we're recognizing them in the next year. These are all seniors, so sometimes it's difficult for our seniors to get back. We have 3 North Forney academic all-state representatives that I would like to call, and I believe Ms. Savannah Gunn is with us this evening, and Coach Kelsey Garner, if you would come on up. Also from North Forney, Alyssa Guidos and Riley Borton. And from Forney High School, Callie Cross and Lexi Brown. All of these young ladies were selected as academic all-state representatives, which means they participated at a high level on the varsity team. They were seniors in great standing, and they also kept a 92 or above grade point average across all subjects. So a great accomplishment both athletically. This team was a regional quarterfinalist as well as academically. Moving on to our next recognition for softball. This young lady was selected as a member of the softball all-state tournament team. Give you a little foreshadowing to some recognitions we're also going to be making tonight. But I would like to invite up Miss Trinity Cannon. UIL Softball All-State Tournament team. Trinity staying up, she's not done yet. Trinity was also Texas Girls Coaches Association All-State, and those recognitions came out late. All-State Tournament team obviously is picked right there at the state tournament in Austin. Our next member that I'm going to recognize is, we're going to go through the entire roster and call them up, because the next process here is, of course, recognize all these young ladies for participation at the UIL State Softball Tournament in Austin last spring. Second, Ms. Savannah DeRoche. Savannah was also selected to the Texas Girls Coaches Association All-State Softball team. Ms. Kennedy Johnson. Jessica Roberts. Madison Galliano. Vanessa Hollingsworth. Kyler Sanders, Kayla Beers, Savannah Hughes, Sophia Majolo. Charlie Hale was unable to join us tonight because she's participating in a tennis match. Sadie Hewitt, Tatum Waller, manager Sidney Thrasher. These young ladies have already graduated. They're seniors who were unable to join us. Georgia Robinson, Lexi Brown, Callie Cross, Sydney Vick, and Hannah Holbrook all graduated. And of course, our coaching staff, if you guys would come up and join us too, Pat and Michelle Idle and Abby Evans. And at this time, Mr. Cody Craig from Representative Keith Bell's office has a special presentation to make.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here with you this evening and represent Representative Bell, who's unable to be here, and I know that this is something that he is proud of. He authored and had passed through the House Resolution number 1224 during the 86th legislative session. Resolution, whereas the Forney High School softball team reached the pinnacle of success by winning the University Interscholastic League 5A State Championship on June 2nd, 2018 in Austin. And whereas following an impressive showing in the regular season, the Jackrabbits began their exciting playoff run by triumphing over Texarkana, Texas High School, and went on to best Louisville, the Colony, Sulphur Springs, Mansfield, Lake Ridge, and Hallsville to earn a spot in the state tournament. And whereas in the semifinals, Forney defeated Barbers Hill by a score of 2-0 and set up a showdown against Richmond Foster High School for the 5A crown, with the game knotted 1-1 in the 7th inning. Tournament MVP Savannah DeRoche hit a 2-out single that scored 2 runs, and the Jackrabbits then pushed another run across to take a 4-1 lead. Foster threatened in the bottom of the 7th, but the game ended with an unforgettable catch by senior left fielder Caroline Tedder, who chased down a seemingly unplayable foul ball, snagging it just as she slammed into the railing. The incredible play made ESPN SportsCenter's top 10 and gave Forney the first softball state championship in school history. The win was all the more special because it closed out a season that was dedicated to a former teammate, Emily Galliano, who lost her life in a tragic accident the year before. And whereas the Jackrabbits' success was the result of a true team effort, in addition to Ms. DeRoche and Ms. Tedder, the roster included Trinity Cannon, Callie Cross, Hannah Holbrook, Samantha Coker, Lexi Brown, Ashley Cheek, Brittany Lee, Savannah Hughes, Tatum Stover, Bailey Beal, Charlie Hale, Sadie Hewitt, Georgia Robinson, Jessica Roberts, Vanessa Hollingsworth, and Madison Galliano. These determined athletes were guided by head coach Pat Etel and assistant coaches Michelle Edel and Richard Haynes. And whereas through their hard work and unwavering commitment to excellence, the Forney Jackrabbits have become a source of great pride to their school and community, and all those associated with the team will forever cherish the memory of those remarkable accomplishments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives of the 86th Texas Legislature hereby congratulate the Forney High School softball team on winning the 2018 UIL 5A State Championship and extend to the players, coaches, and staff sincere best wishes for continued success. And be it further resolved, an official copy of this resolution be prepared for the team as an expression of high regard by the Texas House of Representatives.
Mr. Coker, if we could get a picture with Mr. Craig and the team, I'm sure Mr. Bell would be pleased. We're proud of all our teams. We've got good teams. We've got great teams all throughout this district. Most certainly, I think you could say this team has approached the level of being an elite team. They've been to Austin 2 years in a row. We're very proud of their accomplishments. They have something to present to our board members this evening that they brought with them. You ladies can go ahead and present members of the board with their medals.
Board members sitting up front, stand up front here. All board members up front, girls on the sides. As close as you can.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all you taking time to be here tonight. I know a lot of things are going on, so it's a fun time to honor you guys, and just thank you for all your efforts in the past, and Coach, keep up the good work. We're moving on then to item 5. Item 5, we need to move forward to the October agenda. At this time, Mrs. Kristen Zanchel will present our last student recognition. That'll be item 6, Citizen of Girls State. Kristen?
Thank you. Good evening. So the American Legion Auxiliary began an effort over 5 decades ago to educate youth in the privileges and duties and responsibilities of American citizenship. And that program has grown from 94 participants to over 500 today. We are honored today that the American Legion Auxiliary, we have Becky Duncan and Alma Garrison here with us this evening representing them, and they chose to sponsor our North Forney High School senior Emily Fulton, who attended Girls State this year. So we would like to honor them and thank them for their sponsorship of our student, and we are so proud that Emily represented us well this summer, and would like to invite them up for a picture.
And moving on then to item B, Community Impact Award, Mr. Rick Gear.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, Board of Trustees. On August the 20th, the Positive Coaches Alliance hosted an award ceremony to raise funds to improve the culture of youth and high school sports in North Texas. At this event, Forney ISD was given the Community Impact Award, an award being given out for only the second time. Highland Park ISD received it in 2018. A statement issued through a press release from PCA stated, "When it comes to sports done right, few organizations do it better than Forney ISD's athletic program." Scott Sekules, former Dallas Cowboys quarterback and PCA North Texas Senior Regional Manager, said, quote, "Forney stands out as a partner in North Texas, going above and beyond to ensure that all kids throughout Forney are learning the important lessons sports teach." He went on to say, "We're extremely proud to honor Forney ISD with this year's Community Impact Award and recognize them for the important work they are doing, not just on the athletic fields, but in the community at large." Due to the leadership and vision of our athletic director, Neil Weaver, Forney ISD was able to be recognized for their powerful investments into using sports as a way to teach life lessons at every level. PCA programming is front and center at Forney ISD's annual LEAD conferences, our Student Leadership Summit, led by Coach Weaver, where emerging seniors from each sport at both high schools, along with head coaches from both schools and community representatives, engage in leadership development and planning together. Coach Weaver has also led the implementation of spreading a positive sports culture to other communities, offering PCA training within the Metro East Junior High League, which consists of 18 middle schools. It is my honor tonight to recognize Coach Weaver for his acceptance and his leadership in bringing this Community Impact Award to Forney ISD. Coach Weaver.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate all the coaches and all your leadership. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess and allow these people to exit if they need to, so thank you for being here again. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We'll call this meeting back into session at 7:33. Moving on to item 7, reports. The next 4 items are reports only and they require no action by the board. Moving on to item 7A is our monthly financial report, and Mr. John Chase, our Chief Financial Officer, will present at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. The financial report for the month ending July 2019 was included in your packet for review. This is the first month of the fiscal year, so there's just 1 month of activity to report. The revenues we collected for the month was $1.33 million. We expended $4.6 million. And again, the year-to-date totals are going to be identical to the monthly totals, since there's just the first month of the report. We collected 1% of the amount of revenue estimated, which, when you compare to last year, it's pretty well in line with what we're doing then. The revenues that we get for the July and August in our state aid payments, as you read the background memo, we recognize that revenue in the prior fiscal year, so that's why you don't see a big state aid payments in July or August, because it's booked in the prior year, but it's for the operation, it was earned in the prior year, so that's why we do that. But anyway, 1% of the amount of revenue collected. As far as the expenses go, we were 5% of appropriations were expended. At this same point in time last year, I think we're at 4%, so we're pretty well right on target with our spending. As far as, we don't have a whole lot of information to report in the debt service fund. We did collect $320,000 in property taxes for the month, but there was no activity as far as expenditures go. That's 1% of the amount of revenue estimated, which is pretty well where we expect to be at this time of year. And finally, the cash and investments on hand at the end of July was $63.3 million, and that was included what we had on deposit for general fund, food service, debt service, and capital projects. That concludes the financial report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any questions from the board? I hear none. We'll move on then to item 7B, master planning update. Mrs. Kim Morsack.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Board, at this time, I'll ask Vaughn Gallagher from Gallagher Construction to come up. As you know, we opened all of our schools on time this year, and he's going to kind of give you an update on where we are on current finished projects and projects that they are in the works on at the Triangle Schools. Mr. Gallagher?
Thank you. We've got some pictures to show tonight. I'm pleased to tell you that as we stand here that we've got everything done for the summer that we're supposed to get done. I think the way everything turned out just looks phenomenal. It's a collective effort. The district's been fantastic to deal with, making decisions, helping us along, helping us with the things. The maintenance staff's been great. The staff, everybody's just been good, and this could not have happened with this many campuses and this many things going on, with things that pop up, if it wasn't that way. So while the pictures look great and they tell the story of what it looks like, they don't really tell the story of what's taken place in the last 90 days. And just want to thank everybody in Huckabee and everybody in general for all that. So if I could, I'll start with some pictures. We've got Smith and Ray. These were probably our less strenuous ones for the summer because, as you know, we'd already done the additions and then moved into the planned renovations, so we had the materials in place and everything in place to get that work done, but they turned out to be just fantastic. There's some pictures, the learning stairs. I know you probably saw them at the dedications last week, but quite the facility to set the tone as the district keeps moving forward. Crosby, Lewis, Blackburn, Henderson, those renovations, because of the time constraints and awarding the projects late, just was the nature of where it was. We had some issues getting material in time and getting work in time and getting people that could mobilize to do that, but we got that done, and a lot of thanks to Huckabee on that with quick approvals and helping us get, saying, hey, look, here's our glass submittals. We need them back in like an hour, and they were very accommodating for that, which helped the whole cause. Some more pictures of the renovations. And if you remember, these renovations are done. This is kind of backwards from Smith and Ray, but the additions are now taking place, so the focus is on those. These are some pictures of the additions. We're staggering things to not put the load on one trade at a time. So you'll see Lewis is a little ahead of Blackburn, which is a little bit ahead of Crosby, which is a little ahead of Henderson. So that way we can move the excavation crew through, and then the concrete crew through, and then now the most advanced is Lewis, where you see the ICF, which are the masonry walls going up. These will take a little longer. We're in great shape for next school year. They'll be done sometime late spring, more than likely. But being a shelter, there's more inspection provisions. There's more detail work involved. There's just more, for lack of a better term, red tape that's required to certify once we're done. So we've got plenty of time, and things are taking shape, and the focus is kind of more on those, obviously, now that the renovations are done. Any questions on anything so far? Additional pictures. And then Criswell and Johnson, those are wrapped up. Criswell, we ran into some load-bearing walls that were unanticipated, so we had to all get together to come up with the solutions on it. So it was kind of the last one finishing up. Again, I can't brag enough on the staff there for enduring that late completion and getting things done, but it all got done on time. We were waiting on a lift, as you see. Had to have a picture of that in here. That was kind of the last piece to take place. And then also this summer at Johnson, if you remember, we did a lot of extensive plumbing work in conjunction with the maintenance staff in the kitchen area and the restroom areas on that end of the facility, as well as running to a new lift station. And you know, knock on wood, so far all that's been great and really helped the cause over there. So any questions on anything? I know that's kind of quick, but all is well.
Any questions from the board? Well, thank you so much for your team and all your hard efforts this summer. I mean, 8 campuses to be completed by the time school started is amazing. The only person that could have done that might have been Christopher, but you know, he was ready to go, but you got it all done.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Everybody did a great job, so appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on to item 7C, then enrollment update. Ms. Kim Horsack.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. So we have some new projections to show you from our demographer, Templeton Demographics. We did have an original snapshot prediction of 11,888. He's kind of gone back and looked at our starts again and where we started at the beginning of the year, and has a new projection of 11,954. Currently, we are at 11,808. And just kind of looking at last year's trend and this year's trend, we are trending exactly the same way we did last year. Really looking at probably hitting 12,000 sometime during the school year. I think if we continue to trend like we are, we're going to be very, very close to that 11,954 at Snapshot. We've had quite a few parents start the enrollment process after the break on Monday. We have about 23 kids in the queue right now that we're just waiting on some final paperwork to get them started. So we'll continue to see enrollments throughout the year. You'll continue to get your Friday report to kind of just show you where we're climbing. And we feel pretty confident we're going to be right at that 11,954 at Snapshot.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Ferris, I will add one thing. We do expect a fall demographic report coming from Templeton in the next few months as well.
Yeah,
As soon as
I will
we get
send
that
him,
data.
thank you, Dr. Terry. I'll send him new numbers tomorrow, so he'll see all of our students and where they're coded. And I will also add, TEA did send the new geocode information maps to us for the census blocks. We received that today, and we'll be uploading that into Skyward tomorrow. And we'll be able to start mapping our students to the census blocks as well, which is a new requirement from the state for some funding. So John and I have been kind of talking through that as well. So we received that today.
Yeah. Because of those changes, we've actually moved to a quarterly update from Templeton Demographic for the next school year as well.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7D, Smart Tag Bus Monitoring Report. Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services, at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Always in an effort to improve our environment, safety for our children, as well as to increase the efficiency of our transportation department. our resident Siri, Ms. Kim Morsack, found something that we're looking into in great depth because as one director of transportation that I spoke to said, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's designed to ensure authorized ridership and help enhance the safety of students who utilize the bus transportation. Smart Tag enables monitoring of where and when students board or disembark a bus, ensuring students only board their designated bus, increasing bus driver and parent guardian awareness. And the Smart Tag system utilizes an RFID radio frequency identification technology and a cloud-connected tablet. So what does this mean for each individual? For the driver, one thing it allows us to do is streamline a lot of paper-based tasks. One thing that is required of all drivers is to do a pre-trip plan, pre-trip monitoring of their bus, as well as a post-trip as well. There's seating charts that they have to do. There's accident reports that they have to funnel in and procedures they have to do. All this can be kept on a tablet, a portal that's actually installed on the bus. And it's pretty neat. It's a ruggedized kind of tablet computer that can disconnect and connect, but it's in view as the driver moves into drive mode, then it only gives basic information about the route. One thing that I thought was really unique about this, because as you have with teachers that are absent, you also have bus drivers that miss. And so sometimes a sub driver would come on the bus that may not know the kids as well. So what it allows them to do is to be able to push in information through this tablet, and it allows them to give them their next stop. And it also identifies how many students actually get off at that stop. And so it's a pretty unique device that allows that part of the task of a driver to be very computerized, but also gives them exact information. For the student process, they have an RFID card, as I mentioned earlier, that communicates with the driver's tablet. So as they load the bus, they pull, swipe, and go. So they swap on into this tablet. Now, there's a chip that's embedded into this RFID card. The chip itself is not trackable because it's a low frequency. The thing, once they swipe on, then it allows you to track through that tablet that's located on the bus. No student data is recorded on the card itself, only the information that the district would choose to utilize. For the administrators, I mentioned that on the bus there is a portal with the tablet, but there's also, campus has the ability to have a portal on the home campus of the student, as well as obviously in the transportation hub. So as a student swipes onto the bus, then it logs in onto that. And if you've ever lived in the transportation world and having the calls come in about where's my child, is my child on the bus, so forth, this all information could be localized on that portal that's on the campus as well as through transportation. Another unique source of that, it allows us to have these rider reports. It gives us the amount of riders that will be, the rider that's actually eligible for that ridership. A student cannot load a bus that they're not eligible to ride. So for example, if I was loading bus 30 and I really should be on 31, then as they swap the card, then it would go off like an alarm, big red signal that would notify the driver who's sitting next to this portal that the student doesn't belong on this bus, so they can relocate them. If a student went to disembark at a stop that wasn't their designated stop, because all that's been put in before in their route, as they start to unload, then it also would do the same thing. If, for example, a driver pulled up to a stop, it would tell them how many students get off at that stop. And so if I pulled up at the corner of Concord and Iron Gate and there was 10 students to unload there, then if number 11 started to walk off, as he swiped, the alarm would go off again. If only 9 disembark at that point, then they can holler back, hey, somebody, this is your stop, be sure and get off here. So it's just an accountability piece that is pretty phenomenal at this point. From the parent side, as I mentioned, there was 4 portals. One that's located on the bus. There's one at the administration on the campus level, and there's also one at transportation. But also parents have a portal on have the ability to have a portal on their phone. And so what the app can do is you can actually sign up to get, for example, if the bus was 10 minutes late due to traffic, the parents could get a notification of that. For our special needs students, A lot of times we do door-to-door with them, obviously, and so a lot of times we have to have a parent assist us with those kids loading the bus. It could send them alert when the bus was 10 to 12 minutes out. So it's a way for us to communicate with the parents as well. Actually, the parent is able to track the bus as it goes through the route because they have access to that through a secure portal that they have on their phone. So real simple how it works. Just kind of in summary, a student boards the bus, they present their card to this reader, and then that's installed on the bus. It logs the boarding event, recording the timestamp, the location, and all the student information on that portal that's not only on the bus, but also at transportation and at the campus. When a student disembarks, they present their card to the reader again, and it timestamps it again, it logs the event, and verifies that the student got off at the correct stop. So again, it is a way for us to be accountable and to create a very safe environment for our kids, and it also improves the efficiency of our transportation department. I told you it's better than sliced bread, didn't it? So, any questions that you may have? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Green.
One of the slides said something about teachers or student searching. Does that mean if a student maybe like Herman takes his girlfriend with him, maybe shoot back on there and stop that kind of thing, so if that's what happened or?
No, it's referring to the fact that, if you've been in transportation, that they get multiple calls. If a bus happened to be late, if there's a mechanical issue, or if it just got caught in traffic, we get multiple calls from parents saying, where's my child, what bus is my child on, where it is. They would have that access, the ability to have that on their phone to know exactly where their kid is. No one that is not eligible to ride that bus can actually load that bus, because as I said, it's a swipe and go. One of the questions that came up, what if the student loses their ID? The driver has the ability, while they're sitting still, to actually manually load that student on. And so we would give them 2 or 3 times to manually load it, and after that, they'd have to obviously purchase a new ID at that point. But it is. I spoke to a couple of directors in districts that have had this for a couple of years, and when I called Lake Travis ISD, who was somebody that I had known before, just found out that she had it, so I gave her a call, and I said, tell me about this smart tag, and she, oh my, she goes, I would not work anywhere that didn't have this, because this makes us efficient, it holds the drivers accountable. I said, well, tell me about the process of teaching the process to our drivers and to your transportation people. She said it's very friendly, user-friendly, that it's a very unique system. They have somebody from the IT department that helps train the drivers how to use this. She said that it wasn't a difficult process at all. And they've actually had it implemented for a couple of years.
Thank you.
It was actually created by a bus driver, believe it or not. And so somebody hands-on said there's a better way to do this. So.
Yeah, I think you sort of answered my question. Kids who don't have the cars, these are hard.
Well, we would manually load them and obviously have to manually unload them disembarking as well. And we would then obviously that would be noted on the document that the driver had to do that, because it wouldn't be a swipe and go. And so then we would give them, obviously, make contact with the parent. Have you lost it? Did you just forget it? Whatever at that point. But having lived in the transportation world myself, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. One thing else I'd like to share with you a little bit before I sit down here is that one of the things across our nation, we have a little bit of an epidemic for the shortage of drivers. And so as we started looking at some market comparisons of what people are paying, we have to compete against our neighbors. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being competitive enough. So I think that we're believing that we're bringing to you tonight in the consent as well. Just kind of wanted to give you a little brief description of why we're doing that, is because we're a little bit below what is our market in our area. And so we're bringing that to you tonight, I believe, in consent. The second thing too as well is that Forney ISD is very innovative how we do a lot of things. And so started researching how can we, there's got to be a better way for us to get drivers in. We've tried not only through, Teacher Job Network, we've tried through Indeed.com, and we get a few hits, but actually I started looking at doing some research, and there's actually some companies that do recruiting for CDLs, Class B licenses. Arlington ISD does it, as well as Northwest ISD. So John and his business department have been working on a RFP to send out to maybe get some ideas about what companies are out there that might be able to do that for us to help us recruit people. It is not something just a Forney problem. This is a problem across the nation, and especially in the North Texas area. You can pick up call any neighboring districts, and there's short drivers over and over and over across the state.
Mr. Ferris, Board, if I could add one thing, safety is obviously always our number one priority, and what Mr. Gears presented tonight to you is something that we are pretty excited about exploring, so this is not an action item tonight. We'd love to have your feedback on it and any questions that you may have over the next few months to determine if this is something that we'd like to move forward with. We'll continue to work with staff as well to talk through what the implementation process might look like, since this will be a pretty large implementation, as well as a technological implementation through Ms. Morsack's department. So we've gotten good reviews from other school districts, but just wanted to bring this to you tonight as a report and let you kind of think through this and ask questions as we begin to think if we would like to take action in the future.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8, consent agenda. Item 8A, approve the minutes of the August 22nd special meeting. Item 8B, approve the budget amendments. 8C, approve the renewal of current District of Innovation Committee members. 8D, approve the request of maximum class size waiver exemptions. 8E, approve the resolution of extracurricular status of 4-H organization. 8F, approve the I-Station renewal. 8G, approve the Region 7 interlocal agreement. H, approve the purchase of the 3 school resource officer vehicles. Item I, approve the revised bus driver pay scale. And 8J, approve of purchasing cooperative to award a re-roof finish-out contract for Criswell Elementary and grant the superintendent authority to negotiate the contract. All of these may be handled individually or collectively. Do I have a motion from the board? Ms. Dobbs makes a motion for collectively item 8A through J. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Green, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Then moving on to item 9, the public hearing for the 2019-2020 tax rate. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Andrews, I have a second for Mr. Regan. I now call this at 7:56. We'll be in the public hearing. Our presenter is Mr. John Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Just by way of introduction here, that kind of give you just a background. As you guys well know, the process that's brought us to this point, but on June 24th, the budget was, we had a budget hearing and adopted the budget. On July 25th, we received the certified values. We met as a board on the July 29th and proposed a tax rate that was posted in the newspaper on August the 22nd, which brings us to tonight of this public hearing, and afterwards you guys will consider and possibly approve the tax rate. So just again, just talk about the adopted budget. As you know, we adopted a $126 million budget this year. That was made up of about $100 million, a little over $100 million in general fund expenditures, $4 million in food service, and $21 million in debt service. So the rate that you guys proposed on July 29th, as you know, was $1.47. When you compare that to the prior year's tax rate of $1.54, it is a 7-cent reduction. The House Bill 3 that passed the legislative session this year, they changed the way schools finance is funded, and one of those changes has necessitated the decrease in our M&O rate of it to 97 cents. So overall, the proposed rate was down 7 cents from the prior year. Just to talk about property values for a second, as you know, our values have really over the last 4 years in particular, on average, have grown about 16% year over year. That 2015 year was a little bit of an anomaly. As you remember, they passed a homestead exemption increase that year of an additional $10,000. So if you take that out of the equation, just kind of figure out, I think in real in terms of increase, it was around almost 7% that year. But after that point, we've grown, had really steady stout growth of 16% on average year over year. And that translates to, when you look at our average home value over that same period of time from the 2015 to 2019, our average home value in 2015 was $171,000 and a little over. And now the average taxable homestead is $259,000. And so when you look at how the taxes applies to those average homesteads, when you look at the values that actually is taxed and compare that to what, when you go back to the slide and look at the actual value is $259,000, but we only tax $223,000. Part of that's the homestead exemption of $25,000, and then part of it, there's some appraisal cap value that's lost in that as well. So that translates into a taxable value of $223,000 at a tax rate of $1.47. That's a 97, on average, about a $97 tax increase for the year. So when you look at the area school districts around us, pretty much all the ones in Coffin County that I have listed there, and then some of the districts that are actually contiguous to our district, and then a couple of districts to the north of us that are in that fast growth corridor. We're not the lowest, or certainly not the highest. We're somewhere kind of in the middle of the pack. And when you consider the districts that are in those fast growth mode, the tax rates that we have is very comparable to what their tax rates are. So feel like that as it goes through school finance, the way the state's funding public ed, the $1.47 tax rate that we have is certainly understandable. And that's pretty much the information that I have to present to you tonight. When we get to the action item, we will be recommending that you adopt the tax rate of $1.47. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Are there any questions from the board? I hear none. Dr. Terry, do you have any comments?
I wanted to point out one thing that, we continue to see value growth throughout our school district, and our appraisal district does set those values every year. The one thing, just as a reminder, that we do control here is the tax rate, and we're pretty excited about bringing a 7-cent decrease on our tax rate this year to you with House Bill 3 legislation now put in place. So very excited about being able to do that for our constituents, and open up any questions that you may have for the hearing before we do take proposed action.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, if there's no further questions from the board, are there any questions from the public? And I hear none. If there's no further questions, I'd have a motion to close the public hearing. Mr. Johnson, second. Mr. Andrews, have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none, and it's closed at 8:02 p.m. Moving on to item 10, back on the regular agenda, consideration and possible approval for the resolution for early redemption of bonds. Mr. John Chase will present.
As we discussed during our meeting on July 29th, setting a debt service tax rate at 50 cents for this current year will generate more revenues than are necessary to service the debt that's payable in February and August of 2020. We've done this over the last 3 or 4 years. That excess debt service that we've taken the opportunity to collect that. We have bonds that are callable in our portfolio, and we redeemed those in preparation to try to get our debt service down to be able to afford additional school buildings and things that we need in order to prepare for the kids that are coming to us at a rapid pace. Certainly the last 2 years, but it's for the foreseeable horizon, based on the the demographic modeling we received. It's very important that we stay on top of that, and we're limited to 50 cents. We can't levy any more than that. So as much debt as we could chip away while we have excess capacity, I believe it's financially prudent for us to do that. And so when we're looking at bonds that we were going to redeem, we kind of have a couple of some driving philosophy about what we're trying to accomplish here. And obviously, relieving the 50-cent debt pressure is first and foremost, and to try to structure our debt service to where we can make room for future debt service when that time comes, and also to maximize the amount of interest savings that we can achieve by calling and redeeming those bonds early. And so with that philosophy, we've kind of identified Series 2006C, 2008A, 2009, and 2010, some maturities in each one of those years. There's some capital appreciation bonds that with the original maturity date of 2023 that's included in this proposal tonight, along with current interest bonds in 21, 22, and 38 through 40. And if we would have held on to this debt, and not paid it off like we're proposing tonight, we would pay $2.8 million more in interest expense than we would have if we go ahead and pay the debt off. So it's a good deal for us to do that, and as I said, it will free up some capacity for future years. And so just kind of deriving how we come up with that $2.8 million figure here, you can just kind of look down through here and look at our old gross debt service before we make these redemptions, and then what the new amount is. And as I said, there's maturities in 21 and 22, some pretty good principal payments that we'll be avoiding. In 23, that's where that capital appreciation bond would have matured. And then down here in the long end on 38, 39, and 40, there's some current interest bonds that we will be paying off in those years as well. So when you add all the savings up and subtract off what we're actually paying in cash for this current year, it comes out to $2.8 million in interest avoidance. And so the resolution that you have in front of you tonight will give us the ability to adopt this 50-cent debt service tax rate. And then we will redeem these bonds as presented. There is a provision also in the resolution that should the November bond election pass, and it's financially prudent for us to do so, in lieu of paying these bonds, we could pay the principal and interest on those bonds in August this next year. We'd only do that if the interest savings was better to do that versus what we're proposing here, but it does give us options as we move forward. So that's all I have as far as the resolution discussion. Our recommendation is that the board approve the resolution as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, what's your recommendation?
Mr. Ferris, this is becoming an annual event for our board, and it's an exciting annual event, to be honest with you. And I just wanted to take a moment and commend you as a board, as well as Mr. Chase, for continuing to be very conservative in our management of our funds. This is an opportunity for us annually to redeem, as well as restructure in the future. And over the past 5 years, you've managed to pay down over $23 million in principal and over $22 million in interest savings alone. So thank you for continuing to be very engaged in and understanding that this annual event of redemption is a very positive thing for our school district from a fiscal standpoint. And so it is my recommendation that we approve the resolution for early redemption as bonds as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Do I have a motion from the board?
President Ferris, I make a motion that the board approve the resolution for early redemption of bonds as presented and recommended.
Do I have a second? Ms. Stobbs, thank you very much. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Appreciate the hard work, Mr. Chase. Moving on to item 11, consideration and possible approval for the 2019-2020 tax rate. Mr. Chase, if you'll continue there.
Again, in your background in the board, also I think we shared it in a Friday report, the prescribed method of adopting a tax rate, we have to calculate an effective rate in order to compare that to what we're proposing and recommending for adoption. the actual tax rate. And when you make the comparison between what the tax rate is proposed versus what the effective rate is, it's an 8% increase in the rate. So based on that and the guidance that the state legislature has required us to the motion that we have to make in order to adopt that tax rate is set before you to include the language that I've just outlined for you. If you have a question as far as the effective rate and what that is, it's basically what you're trying to determine is the value that you had on the tax roll from the previous year. You strip out the value of new growth for the current year and then apply a tax rate to it that would collect exactly the same dollar amount in taxes that you had in the previous year. And so in that case, it's $1.35 is what that calculation yields. And when you compare that to $1.47, that's why there's a difference. Now, when we looked at the homestead values, and that was about maybe a 3% increase, which is not nearly what that is. But this is not for this includes every property in the district, not just the homesteads. It's all properties that aren't on a homestead, commercial property and so forth. So that's basically what that calculation is designed to do. And our recommendation is, again, the way the state funding formula is set up on the M&O side, we certainly don't have a whole lot of ability to change that tax rate, really. And we do have some flexibility on the debt service side, but again, we're recommending that we keep it the same. So our recommendation is that you approve a $1.47 tax rate for the 2020 fiscal year, and you have a sample motion in front of you to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Dr. Terry, what is administration's recommendation?
Mr. Ferris, Board, just a reminder to you, the $1.47 that we are presenting tonight is a locked-in rate for the year. With a successful bond in November, that rate will stay the same throughout the 2020 school year and beyond. So we would recommend that you adopt the $1.47 tax rate as presented.
Board, you've heard the presentation and recommendation by administration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Green, thank you very much. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Andrews? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item 12, closed session. 12A is deliberation regarding the ratification and employment of professional contract personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, personnel matters. Does anyone have a need to go into closed session? Okay, therefore, let's move on then to item 13, consideration approval regarding the ratification employment of professional contract personnel. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve the professional contract personnel as recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Regan, thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Item 14 is announcement. Monday, September the 9th is College Fair. September 13th is our Unity Bowl. September 19th is the TASB Convention. So we're all aware of that. I think everybody plans to attend. September 20th, Forney High School Homecoming Game. The 21st, Forney High School Homecoming Parade. October 5th is the Forney Education Foundation fundraiser that evening. You are all invited to attend, and if you wish to attend, please let Dr. Terry know about that, and he'll make arrangements for tickets. October 7th is a regular board meeting, and October 8th, North Forney Homecoming Parade. October 11th is the North Forney Homecoming Game, and then everybody wants to know October 14th is the fall break. Look at everybody perk up when I say that. So thank you very much for being here this evening. It is now 8:12, and I will call this meeting now adjourned.